Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending this online seminar today. It's actually a pleasure to have the opportunity to share common issues of interest between Iraq and Iran, especially in the field of architecture and urbanism. I know Iraq has a very fascinating history in architecture and urban planning, and I'm really fascinated, and I'm also very curious to see your reflections after my presentation. Well, let me start by saying just a few words about myself. My name is Hossein Maroufi, and I hold a PhD in urban planning and policy design. And at the moment, I'm assistant professor of urban planning at Ferdowsi University of Mashhad. What I would like to present you today is of particular interest for Iran and Iraq. Both countries host important shrines of Shia imams where millions of pilgrims pay a visit each year. However, these shrine cities share similar contradictions and issues related to large influx of pilgrims, and this is exactly what I'm going to tell you in this seminar. So we have shared issues, the shrine cities, both in Iraq and in Iran, and similar contradictions and similar issues, similar problems, especially regarding to architecture and the morphology of shrine cities. Okay, so I'm sure you're all familiar with these images, and it's not difficult to guess which image relates to which city. Well, the upper left image is the city center of Najaf and the shrine of Imam Ali. The next one, you can see the twin shrines of Karbala and the path between. The bottom left, you can see the shrine of Imam Reza in Mashhad, and the last one is the main haram in the city of Mecca. In all four images that you can see, well, all of them can be considered a shrine city, and they host millions of pilgrims each year. And they have, like, I can say they have similar issues regarding architecture and organization of urban space, which is very related to the influx of pilgrims and visitors. Okay, let me give a very brief definition of the shrine city. Shrine cities is a term that applies to those cities which are centers of worship, pilgrimage, and religious learning. Such cities are major destinations of pilgrims and contain at least one religious complex, containing memorabilia of a particular respected person or thing. And we have many examples in not the Islamic world, but all around the world. In Christianity, in Judaism, and in the other religions, we have such centers that contain one important religious complex, which observes large number of pilgrims and visitors. You can see Karbala, Medina, and Mashhad. Or there are many other examples that can be included in this term. Okay. And there are some common features of shrine cities, especially in the Middle East, or especially in the Islamic world. Well, in most shrine cities, the shrine constituted the initial nucleus of cities and coined the future development. Like there is one important core in the city, that is the shrine, which coined the future development of the city, the main nucleus of the city. Well, the flow of pilgrims required large public and private investment in infrastructures. When you have like millions of visitors, millions of pilgrims visiting a city, well, during the year or during some special religious ceremonies, well, you need infrastructure. You need infrastructure to move visitors between one place to another. You need infrastructures to accommodate the visitors. So shrine cities require large public and private investment in roads, in hotels, in restaurants, and other functions. Therefore, a shrine city obtained a strategic position in the network of mobility with many important routes converging to it. Well, I should also add that many shrine cities are positioned in the network of mobility. Well, another very important issue is the religious endowment system, or the institution of Waqf. Waqf has always had important impact on the spatial structure of Muslim cities during the history. Well, the history reminds us that many elites, including governors, officials, and notable persons, made tremendous donations to the shrine. So the endowment system, or Waqf, has had a very important impact on the flourishment and the development of shrine cities. Well, historically speaking, we can say this. Even today, there are many endowments dedicated to the shrines. The flow of pilgrims has also resulted in prosperity of commerce in holy cities. And there is a very direct link and relationship between pilgrimage and commerce in the holy cities or in the shrine cities. In this slide, I'm going to explain two very important features of the shrine cities, not only in the Islamic world, but all around the world. The shrine cities share two important morphological features. The first is centrality, and the second is axiality. Well, when we are talking about the centrality, well, it is something related to the center. Well, center can be a geographical center can be a political center, a functional center, a spiritual center, and center is also a converging point, a gathering point. For example, in Mecca, Mecca is considered a spiritual center of Islam, where millions of Muslims gather during the Hajj rituals. So the centrality of Mecca for the Islamic world as a spiritual center is very important. And center is a gathering point, especially in many Islamic countries. The shrine can obtain a central position and can become a gathering point, a converging point. And in many shrine cities, the center is a strong magnet that absorbs population, activities, and functions. You can see in the picture, for example, in Karbala, the twin shrines is actually establishing two important centers. In Mashhad, the shrine of Imam Reza, which is the main core and the main nucleus of the city of Mashhad, is an important, strong center for the city. In the Vatican City, there is also a strong center. And a center should be highly accessible. Therefore, routes or paths connecting the main centers or connecting the main center to other centers become another morphological features of shrine cities. Routes and paths are also important for performance of rituals. Well, you can see the path, the route, the walking path between the twin shrines in Karbala. Actually, walking is a part of religious rituals, walking from one shrine to another. It is a part of ritual that should be practiced in many shrine cities, moving from one center to another, walking to the gathering point, to the center, to the spiritual center. So access and path become very important for pilgrimage rituals and for mass movements of crowd. So centrality and axiality are two very important morphological features of any shrine cities. Well, here I would like to talk about the evolution of shrine city, well, especially based on the experience of the city of Mashhad. Well, I said before that the shrine can become a center, a main nucleus. As we can see in the ideogram of the city of Mashhad during the 10th century, where the shrine became the main urban core of the city and also a strong magnet to absorb population and small settlements. And this is where the history of Mashhad begins. We have the shrine of Imam Reza in the center, and various small settlements that are surrounded the shrine. And we have also very small tract of commercial activities. Well, I'm not saying bazaar, but very small tract of commercial activities that are happening around the shrine. Yeah. This is the idea. Okay, the next one is the ideogram of Mashhad during the 15th century. Well, you can see many religious-based infrastructures, including mosques, religious schools, and tomb of notable persons were added to the main shrine. Here is the shrine, the main center, and we have other infrastructures, religious infrastructures like mosques, religious schools, all turning around the shrine. And large endowments by public officials contributed to the prosperity of the city of Mashhad during the 15th century. Many urban elites, including the notable persons, the officials, the governors, endowed many land and sponsored many infrastructures in the city. During the 15th century, Mashhad became a very important pilgrimage center. And residential neighborhoods started to flourish around this important main center. And we can also track the line of Bazaar, the extension of Bazaar, turning around the shrine and the other complex infrastructures, and connecting neighborhoods together. So integration of religious, educational, and commercial activities around the shrine affected the land use pattern and urban layout of the city of Mashhad. This spatial structure remained until the 20th century, until the modern time. In the 20th century, well, many Middle Eastern cities underwent radical changes. The modernization projects by the state actually changed the features of the city in all Middle Eastern cities. Here we are talking about the 20th century, the modern era, the modernization project by the state. Well, in the city of Mashhad, what happened in the 20th century is the formation of a new center. So we have a kind of a polycentric city. We have the religious center or the old center on one part of the city, and we have another new administrative center on the other part. And there is a connection actually between these two centers. And in the main core of the city, we have large concentration of commercial and pilgrim-based services in the old center. Well, in the 20th century, you know, the advancement of the transport system, the advancement of mobility led to large influx of pilgrims and movements between cities. So during the 20th century, in the early 20th century, the old center of Mashhad lacked necessary infrastructures to cater the needs of pilgrims. Well, due to the increasing number of visitors, there were needs to provide some services for these visitors. So this is exactly where the story of transformation of the shrine city begins. So after the 20th century, there were many efforts to transform the city of Mashhad and other holy shrine cities in the Middle East. So here, from now on, I'm going to present the transformation of shrine cities and the underlying factors that impact the transformation of many shrine cities in the Middle East. I'm going to actually summarize these transformational issues in 3 main points, which I'm going to elaborate further. The first one is isolation of the shrine from the rest of urban fabric. The second one is accessibility to the shrine, especially the vehicular accessibility, automobile accessibility. And the third one, which is now a very important issue, is commercializing the pilgrimage sites. The speculation of land around the shrine and commodifying the urban space around the shrine. Well, the first transformation of shrine cities is often reflected in efforts to isolate the shrine from the rest of urban fabric. So isolation of the shrine is actually a major and the very first effort by the municipalities or by the officials in many shrine cities. I have examples. I have like 4 or 5 examples from many important shrine cities where you can see the disconnection of shrine or isolation of the shrine from its setting. The first image, number A. Well, on the left, you can see the city of Mecca in the 1920s. You can see the haram is very well integrated into the urban setting. However, in 1970, the expansion of Kaaba and the demolition of surrounding fabric resulted in the isolation of this religious complex. Here you can easily see the clearance of urban fabric in order to isolate and disconnect the shrine from its urban setting. Below you can also see the same procedure happened in the city of Najaf. On the left, you can see the Najaf before 1950. Well, the shrine is very well integrated into the urban fabric, and it is very integrated. However, in 1980s, the shrine has totally been disconnected from its setting. A large open space has been turned out of the historical fabric around the shrine, where hotels and commercial developments face directly onto the shrine of Imam Ali. Here you can see the large open space has been carried out of the shrine. And the shrine is totally disconnected from the urban fabric. The same procedure happened in the city of Karbala, where the twin shrines in 1940 is actually very well integrated into the traditional urban fabric. But today, you can see the total disconnection of the twin shrine. In the case of Mashhad, the intervention is very tremendous. An immense clearance of the urban fabric around the shrine happened in 1970s, where about 13 hectares of the historical urban fabric were removed and demolished in order to make shrine a freestanding monument. In all cases, the efforts by the officials were to establish a freestanding monument. Well, the second transformation of shrine cities is reflected in the efforts to increase the mobility of pilgrims and increase the accessibility to the shrine complex. When we're talking about accessibility, well, we have pedestrian accessibility, we have automobile accessibility, but here we are most concerned with automobile accessibility to the shrines. Here I'm going to give some examples of the city of Mashhad and the transformation of the area around the shrine according to the idea of making the shrine more accessible to cars, to traffic. You can see on the left, upper left, the city of Mashhad in the 1920s, where the first intervention happened. Well, the first intervention aimed at facilitating the traffic circulation around the shrine by imposing two streets intersecting at a traffic ring around the shrine. Here are the two intersecting streets, which they intersect around the shrine in a traffic loop or a traffic ring. Well, the second intervention, the second plan, was proposed by Michel Ecochard in 1971. And the plan proposed a pedestrian ring around the shrine, which you can see by the color of yellow, adjoined by green spaces and a traffic ring and parking lots further away. Here is the pedestrian ring. The arrays of green spaces around the ring, and in the brown you can see the traffic ring and parking lots proposed by the plan. But this plan was never realized. The third plan, proposed in 1976 by Dariush Burbur, which proposed the entire clearance of the urban fabric, about 13 hectares clearance of urban fabric around the shrine, in order to prepare it for commercial and hotel developments. Another plan in 1980s proposed underground traffic ring and parking lots. So this is a kind of a traffic plan for the shrine. Here there is an underground ring for circulating the traffic and large parking lots for the car. Another plan in 1990s proposed a traffic flow in radial concentric pattern. Here you can still see the shrine in the center and the converging streets and avenues toward the shrine. A very automobile-oriented plan and proposal. And finally, the approved plan by Taj Consultants proposed a traffic loop, a traffic ring, cutting through 5 neighborhoods, 5 traditional neighborhoods, and many converging streets toward this traffic loop. Especially this loop were cut through 5 traditional neighborhoods and made tremendous impact on the daily life of residents, inhabitants around the shrine. The similar procedure happened in the city of Karbala. On the left image, you can see the plan of Karbala in 1940s or 50s, if I'm not wrong, which you can see the organizing traffic for cars and visitors around the shrine. Here you can see, you can track easily the traffic ring around the 2 shrines. And there was a pedestrian connection actually between the two shrines. But the new plan for the 2 shrines were actually based at integrating shrines into a traffic network. This is a very traffic-oriented plan. In order to make the mobility faster and make the shrine more accessible to traffic flow. On the bottom left, you can see this is the pedestrian way, which used to connect the 2 shrines. Well, the third transformation effort, we can call it commercializing the pilgrimage sites, commodifying the pilgrimage sites. I have examples for you. These images actually illustrates the city of Mashhad Well, the left one is the city of Mashhad and the area around the shrine before the intervention, before the execution of the proposed plan. Well, you can see there are large tracts of residential areas around the shrine. You can see commercial activities on the main thoroughfares, on the main streets. You can see commercial activities on red. But still there are many residential areas and daily life around the shrines. But the proposed plan actually completely removed and changed the residential characteristics around the shrine and increased the commercial activities and the commercial land use around the shrine. You can see large parcels of commercial use, commercial land use is developing around the shrine. The same procedure also happened in Karbala. You can track the land use pattern, the changes in land use pattern from 2007 to 2017. You can easily track, in 2017, you can track the increase in commercial activities. Well, commercial activities are in red and residentials in yellow. Especially around the shrines, you can see the concentration of commercial activities, as illustrated also in the commercial density around the two shrines in 2007 and 2017. You can see the density of commercial activities have increased tremendously. This means that the large number of residents, the large number of local inhabitants and residents were moved away from their neighborhoods in order to be replaced by commercial land uses. This happens in all shrine cities. Also, speculation on real estate development. Many shrine cities economically are dependent on the flow of pilgrims. Nowadays, it has become an industry. And there are many economic gains for many shrine cities. So economic dependence on the single function of pilgrimage has always conditioned the types of and spatial distribution of land uses in holy cities, as well as physiology and typology of their commercial architecture. The growth of many commercial buildings, also hotels, many large-scale shopping malls around the shrine has changed the skyline of the cities today. For example, in the city of Mashhad, the area around the shrine has become a construction site for development of large-scale commercial functions, especially shopping malls. This has changed the skyline of many shrine cities. Another one is aggregation of small plots or small parcels of land in order to obtain larger plots, therefore higher floor area ratio. This has been also a dominant strategy in the center of many shrine cities. For instance, you can see the small plots of land, small parcels in the city of Mashhad before the plan, and this is the proposed plan. You can see a large, very large, super large plots. So what are the consequences of these sort of strategies for the shrine cities? What are the consequences today in the 21st century? Well, the deregulation of urban codes in favor of changing land use pattern from residential to commercial and increasing floor area ratio. So the number of local inhabitants, the number of local residents is decreasing today in the center of cities like Mashhad and Karbala or Najaf. Many traditional neighborhoods are clearing out in order to be replaced by commercial activities and shopping malls or hotels or any other infrastructures. Commercializing pilgrimage, commodifying urban space and real estate speculation has changed the organic morphology and the traditional urban scape of many shrine cities. This is what is happening today. A very visual confusion in the skyline of cities. Very strange architectural forms, very strange skyline, very strange forms. And another important issue is that local products, local handicrafts, has been substituted by imported consumer goods. And small-scale retails are shrinking in favor of large-scale commercial centers and global retail chains. The image on the left, this image I took in like 2 or 3 years ago in the area around the shrine in Mashhad. You can see selling of the Eiffel Tower in proximity of the shrine. This is not good. This means that the local handicrafts have been totally neglected. And the center has become a focus of imported consumer goods. And these large-scale developments in the form of shopping malls and chain hotels, these are actually influencing the small-scale retails in a very negative way. This is not what we are looking for. This is not sustainable at all. And today, the skyline of many holy cities consists of high-rise buildings, commercial signs, and advertisement boards, which have dominated the original visual prominence of sacred landmark. So these kind of intervention have actually changed dramatically the prominence of religious landmark and the traditional landmark. Here you can see similar awful experiences. And unfortunately, in the absence of remedial, protective, or preventive public policies, and with a new focus on private financing, the central districts of many shrine cities are turning into a joint public-private commercial ventures. And there is a problem and the crisis of identity in many shrine cities. As you can see in these two pictures. This is not what we are supposed to do in our cities. Well, the coronavirus pandemic has had and it still is going to have immense impacts on economy, tourism, pilgrimage, and other sort of social and cultural gatherings. The pandemic restricted mobility, social gathering, religious rituals, and had a dramatic impact on pilgrimage center and sites, especially in the city of Mashhad. Decrease in the number of pilgrims, the lockdown and closure of hotels and shopping malls led to economic stagnation in the cities like Mashhad. So here is the city of Mashhad in these images. You can see the city of Mashhad during the COVID-19 pandemics. Closed shopping malls. The area around the shrine is closed. And the economy of city center has declined since the start of the pandemic. This has illustrates, this actually we can learn that the economy of many shrine cities are very fragile and vulnerable because it is totally based on pilgrimage industry. It is very monofunctional. So is there something that we can do? Well, we can do a lot of things, but it is totally based on the context. So everything we do should be actually related to the context. We are not looking for imported solutions from other countries, especially the more developed countries. We have to look for local solutions. So here are a set of policies, very well general policies that should be further elaborated by public officials in many shrine cities. Preservation of tangible and intangible heritage assets of historic part of shrine cities. This is the fact that we need to work on. We need to preserve our heritage, both tangible and intangible. Pilgrimage should be seen as an opportunity to boost local economy and small-scale retails and businesses. Today, we notice that in many shrine cities, the local economy is actually dying and is replaced by large-scale retails and businesses which are mostly private. Rehabilitation and regeneration of historic buildings and neighborhoods. This is also a very important factor. Increasing livability of urban fabric through promoting cultural-led activities and events. pilgrimage centers are also cultural centers. We need plans and policies to promote cultural-led activities and events. An economy based on pilgrimage business has proved to be vulnerable, according to the experience of COVID-19 pandemic. We need economic diversity in many shrine cities. Being based and being dependent on only pilgrimage business has proved to be vulnerable and fragile. Okay, this is the end of my presentation, and well, I hope I see your reflections and your questions. Well, I'm not very well, generally I know about the shrine cities in Iraq, but probably you guys know more than about me what is happening in many shrine cities in Iraq, their spatial transformations, and the policies to conserve and rehabilitate the areas around the shrine. So I'm curious to see your reflections, your comments, your questions, your thoughts, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Hossein. Thank you very much for your valuable lecture about the shrine cities. I think it was very rich in information, and I'm a mechanical engineer, but I'm interested in architecture. I think you give a successful solution for the traffic in the shrine cities. Thank you very much. Now we start the discussion by asking questions from the students or teachers or anyone interested in this subject. Anyone has a question?
Thank you so much, yeah, Dr. Haider. I have some comment and question about the lecture. Firstly, I want to thank Mr. Dr. Hossein many thanks for your really very interesting session and very nice presentation. I want to mention that he specified the problems and the issue that we have all of us feeling about our cities, especially about our shrine cities. You specified very really and timely problems, and your subject is timely and it's much required nowadays, especially for our cities in Iraq. I want to mention that yes, we have some common problems and common challenge that we have facing in our cities in Iraq, especially Karbala and Najaf. The problem that you mentioned, it's the same problem in our cities in Iraq, and we have the same issue and the same feeling about it, and we around it. Yes, it's right and it's true, but how can we find solution for this problem and to accommodate this large number of the people? Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. You know, there is a dilemma actually. There's a dilemma in many shrine cities around the world. Are we planning and designing cities for the local citizens or for the pilgrims? I know the flows of pilgrims in many shrine cities, they are very beneficial for the economy because there are jobs, there are employment, there is money circulating in the city, And there are many benefits attributed to the flows of pilgrims. But are we designing the city for citizens or for just the pilgrims? So the city should cater the needs of its citizens or the needs of pilgrims. Here is where the dilemma actually begins. You are right. We are the shrine cities need open space because, you know, and you mentioned that in many specific rituals, there are like thousands or tens of thousands of pilgrims arrive in cities, and they should be accommodated, and we need places for accommodate these pilgrims, or these pilgrims should be able to move between one place to another. So we need a series of public space in the city. But the problem today is that the public space has been commodified, has been commercialized, has been surrounded by many commercial activities. And the quality of public space has been diminished and decreased. So maybe we provide public space, but the quality is not actually optimal. So we have to be careful when we design public spaces in the shrine cities. We have to be careful to see the public space as a media to communicate both with local people and with the pilgrims and visitors. So here the quality of public space become very important, and the connection of public space to the shrine and to the surrounding. This is what we need to work on. The architects, the urban designers need to work on the quality of public space in the shrine cities.
Thank you, Dr. Hossein. Another question?
Dr. Haider, please.
نعم دكتور أسعد. دكتور أسعد.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Hossein. We heard a useful lecture and attractive information in this lecture. I'm asking, maybe my question have a philosophical interest more than special one. I think the issue is the dominance or the importance of the dominance of a building, of part of a city over the whole city. And this is a value we give to the some kind of buildings in the city, actually. So I think there is a complication related to changing in the dominance of some function over another one. Maybe you talk about the function of commercial function, and its maybe bad effect on the surrounding function, surrounding spaces around the main building. So I think this is the problem. We must think inside it how we can give back the dominance of one building, one important building, over the city, the whole city, in case of some new functions which maybe want to be dominant itself. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Well, you know, today the shrine is not anymore dominant in the skyline of many shrine cities. The skyline of shrine cities today is dominated by commercial buildings, by commercial advertisements, by hotels, and anything related to the whole story of commodifying the urban space and the urban scape. This is where we have gone wrong, I think. And we have to focus on preserving the actually the urban scape and the traditional and the religious skyline of the shrine cities. Actually, there are many, I think, in my opinion, many shrine cities of Iran and Iraq, they are following examples of what is happening in Saudi Arabia, in Mecca and in Medina. So Mecca has become a model for many, for the development of many shrine cities in Mashhad, in and other, I think, shrine cities in Iraq. I can say more about the city of Mashhad because when I studied the transformation of the city center of Mashhad in the past 5 decades, in the past 50 years, I can see that the phases, the different phases of transformation are very similar to what is happening in Mecca. The development around the Haram and the development around the Kaaba. But you know, Mecca has another political setting, another geography, and it cannot be replaced in other contexts. We have to pay attention to the context. A solution that is valid in Mecca or Medina maybe is not valid in Mashhad or in Karbala. Or
thanks, Dr. Hossein. Again, you talk about very significant issue, which is the transformation and the change that happened. And it's really very important because it's facing all our cities. Do you think that the change and the transformation that happened, especially during the few recent decades, is it according to the comprehensive planning, or it's coming accidentally, or it's coming about, for example, in Iraq, sometime the change and the transformation that happened in the last few decades is coming about as a reaction for some events. So, for example, 1990, the open space in Karbala between the two holy shrines, between Imam Abbas and Imam Hussein, is coming after the revolution that happened in 1991 and demolishing all the buildings. So, do you think it's we can control the transformation in our cities?
Thank you for your question. Very interesting. And yes, you mentioned the transformation of the twin shrines in Karbala during the 1991. Yes, I guess the rebellions of the 1991 made the authorities to demolish the area around the shrine. So I think there was like a political aim and political reason for clearing out the area around the shrine. In the city of Mashhad, actually all the interventions were based on a comprehensive plan. So there were plans beforehand, and there were actually land use plans for the area around the shrine, and the plans have been approved by the Ministry of around the shrines. But the problem is that the plans were only two-dimensional. It was only a land use plan. So when the plan is only two-dimensional, so and the three-dimensional, the third dimension, which is a three-dimension of the plan, is neglected, so the quality of the urban space and the quality of the environment is actually get little attention, because it was only a land use plan for commercial development around the shrine, a land use plan for increasing the mobility and increasing the accessibility of automobiles to the shrine. So we don't have a plan, for example, for regulations for the skyline, or regulations for the facade of the buildings, or regulations regarding the use of materials or use of architectural styles. There are no plans as such. So the plan is only a two-dimensional and a very basic land use plan, unfortunately. So as a result, the quality of urbanscape and the quality of the skyline is decreasing, unfortunately.
Sorry, it's okay. Then do you have any legislation or laws about the controlling the planning or controlling the development of the city of the Mashhad?
There is a master plan. Actually, we have two plans. A special plans for the center of the city of Mashhad, which is about 300 hectares. And then we have a master plan for the rest of the city. And this is also another issue. This is another contradiction, I would say, that the master plan is actually concerned with the rest of the city, and a special plan for the center is like a very independent plan. So there are not bilateral relation, or there is no link between these two plans, the special plan for the center and the master plan. This is also very contradictory. Those plans, those two plans should be in accordance with each other, should be in harmony with each other.
So there is no legislation or laws about, for government legislation about, for example, specified some materials or the height of the building or the streets or something like that. Is it or not?
Well, there are, but it's very general. You know, Iran is a very large country. We have different climate in different areas of Iran. So there are some general plans and regulations and rules, but they are not really concerned with small details, and there is no actually a guarantee for the execution of those regulations. So when it comes to the execution and implementation of the regulations, there is a kind of gap and a weakness in controlling and implementing the regulations. This is the problem.
Yeah,
the implementation.
So no specific regulations, for example, for the Holy Shrine or the city center of the Holy Shrine.
No, there is no specific regulations for developing the skyline of whole area around the Holy Shrine. No, there is no such regulation or urban design regulations for designing the public space around shrine. No, we don't have such regulations, unfortunately. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Hossein.
Okay.
Okay. Any question from the students?
Dr. Haider, excuse me, if there are some students, they have some question, maybe they can write it on the chat box if they don't want to say it. Is it possible, Dr. Hossein?
Where is the chat book? Is this one? Is it?
Yeah, the middle one. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if they want to write something in the chat box, is it possible for you?
Yes, sure. And also they can email me if they have more questions in the future and they want more materials regarding the transformation of holy shrine cities. They can email me. I'm writing my email now on the chat box, so everyone has my email. Okay. And if you have questions, the students, because the students are always shy.
Yeah, that's why I said they maybe won't or prefer to write something on the chat box better than to say.
Sure, yeah. So don't be shy and just tell me about your reflections and opinions and comments now or in the future through email.
I'm sure they will do. I have also some issue I want to talk to raise it with you if it's possible. You talk about the skyline and the skyline of the Holy Shrine. There is some. I said there is some symmetry between Holy Shrine in Iraq and Iran, but there is some also differences. One of the main differences is the dominance of the Holy Shrine on the urban landscape of the city that you mentioned and I mentioned as well. The dominance of the dome over the land over the Holy Shrine. This is a very important thing. I know that there is a still connection or visual connection between the pilgrims and the dome on the Holy Shrine in Mashhad. Unfortunately, in Iraq, especially in Karbala, this visual connection is disconnected now, and the dominance of the dome starts to disappear now. In two cases, inside the courtyard of the shrine and outside of it. And of course, the result of this connection created also psychological disconnection between the people and the Holy Shrine. So how can we manage this problem, for example, in Iraq? Do you agree or do you support that the covering of the Holy Shrine in Iraq, especially in Karbala, because it's totally covered because according to some environment issue?
Thank you. Yes, you're right. Unfortunately, today the dominance of the shrine complex, including the dome especially, is disappearing. I have shown examples and pictures of Mashhad where you cannot see anymore the dome. All you can see is commercial centers, the hotels, and the advertisement boards, and anything related to commodifying the pilgrimage. Well, we all know that pilgrimage is a spiritual activity. It's not a commercial activity. It is a spiritual activity. And it is very connected to daily life of especially the local people. Today, unfortunately, the local people of Mashhad has been removed from the area around the shrine. So the residential area have totally been depopulated. So the exit of population from the local population from the neighborhoods around the shrine has resulted in the dominance of commercial activities in the center of the shrine. In Karbala, I'm really curious because I never had the opportunity to visit Karbala or Najaf. I'm curious actually to see what is happening, and I don't know if there are any regulations for the city of Karbala or Najaf regarding the skyline of the city or a skyline of the area around the shrine, or any regulations for designing the public space, the density of the buildings, the height of the buildings. I really don't know if there are available codes and regulations in the city of Karbala, but I think both cities, Mashhad and Karbala, are going toward the same direction, which is a large investment. I know there are large investments in the city of Karbala for developing hotels and infrastructures related to accommodating the pilgrims. This should not happen, actually. I mean, we have the case of Mashhad ready in the hand. It can be an example of a development that is not sustainable, that is not good for a city that is known for its spirituality. I think the authorities in Iraq and also the member of academia in Iraq, I think university staff and university academicians should be very concerned about what is happening in the shrine cities. I know also there are many investments by the government of Iran in the shrine cities of Karbala and Najaf. I think you should be very careful to the environmental impacts of these developments. The impacts on the local heritage. Heritage is very important. Heritage is a part of actually a pilgrimage culture. We cannot disconnect heritage from pilgrimage. So we have to be very careful, and we have to be demanding. And there should be a kind of public awareness, especially in Iraq, for the negative consequences of these kind of developments, especially in shrine cities. I would highlight the importance of heritage. This is something that we miss today in the city of Mashhad. There's no heritage anymore. Everything has been demolished. So if you come to the city of Mashhad, it's all new. You cannot guess that the city has a history. The city has a heritage. It's all gone. So the question of identity, the question of conserving the heritage, the question of designing city for citizens first and then for pilgrims. these are important issues that I think Iraqi people, especially in universities, should be very concerned about. This is what I can comment on your.
Thank you so much. Yes, I agree. I totally agree with you, and it's the same concern in our cities in Karbala and Najaf and in most of the cities in Iraq. The heritage is very important, and we miss the heritage and the heritage elements disappearing day after day during the last few decades, according to the many problems. In both cases, tangible and intangible heritage. Also, there is many crafts. Many local people has been leave the city, for example, and we missed the separate of the local city, especially in the cities around the Holy Shrine, in the city center, traditional city center around the Holy Shrine. So it's the same concern, and it's the same problem that we have facing in our cities. Thank you so much, Dr. Hossein.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Hossein. We hope to see you again in another lectures or presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my experience and ideas with my colleagues from the University of Basrah, and I hope to see you guys soon in person. You are welcome to visit us in Ferdowsi University of Mashhad, and we are looking for more communications and dialogues with you and your colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
السلام عليكم. عفوا دكتور حيدر، اكو رابط للمشاركه، يا ريت الطلبه يملونه حتى ندز لهم شهادات المشاركه على ايميلاتهم. Thank you very much, Dr. Hossein, for your participation and this fantastic lecture. Really, it's a very good information about the urban planning. And there is a link for participation. We will send a certificate of participation on email for everyone participate in this email, in this lecture, our students and our colleagues, inshallah. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We will see you again, inshallah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a good day all. Thank you for attending this seminar.
طلابنا الاعزاء، بالنسبه لكم تقدرون هسه تدخلون على الرابط حتى تسجلون الحضور، حتى تحصلون شهاده مشاركه بالمحاضره. طبعا المحاضره الثانيه راح تكون الساعه 10:30 على نفس الرابط طبعا، فممكن انه تنضمون لها الساعه 10:30 ان شاء الله. شكرا جزيلا. نعم.
عفوا دكتور، اغلب الطلبه ما قدروا ينضمون لان الميت حد
لا اوكي بالنسبه لكم اللي حاضرين تقدرون هسه تسجلون الحضور مالتكم حتى تحصلون شهادات مشاركه. انتم ممكن تبقون بالميت، يعني ماكو مشكله. 10:30 راح تبدا المحاضره الثانيه.